The official Pantheon merch store is now open where you can support the development of the game by purchasing hats, shirts, and even baby onesies. But what I didn't have time to mention was that a lot of people weren't very happy about this at first. So let's dig in a little bit more into what this is, where it came from, and why those mugs cost $30.
This is BazgrimTV. Learn, laugh, level up.
Hey, it's my face. This video is obviously going to be a little more informal compared to some of my other videos because I just wanted to talk briefly yet honestly about something that I think is fairly important. But also at the same time, I'm currently in the middle of moving right now, which is why the area behind me is all blank and the lighting is like kind of weird and stuff, which you probably already knew if you've been following my social or Patreon or anything, but that's not at all what this is about, because I wanted to address the Pantheon merchandise store that was released just last week, a day before the September 2019 newsletter came out, and it was met with a fair amount of controversy, I would say, or some confusion or some concerns, some of which I shared myself, and the devs, though, afterward pretty quickly provided some good clarity, I think, that helps it to make a little bit more sense. So I want to take a look here at the merchandise store itself, go through it, see what it is, see why it is, and then, you know, add the clarity that the devs have given us. So this is the store. It's on pantheonmmo.com/merch store, and this is something that the community has actually been asking for a long time. I found forum posts even as far back as like January 2016 where people are like, Pantheon needs to have a merch store, we want shirts, we want hats, etc., etc., etc. And the devs had said that it was something that they were definitely interested in doing. It was just a matter of when the right time to do it was. And even now, I still gotta say, I think the timing of it is a little bit odd. I think if they could, it would have made more sense to wait until like pre-alpha 5 or alpha to kind of go along with that. I think that would have made more sense, but whatever. Because some of the questions that or comments that I had seen when this first came out were like, why are you making merch for a game that isn't even out yet? And I think that's kind of a silly statement, to be honest, because there was already a demand for it, and fans, it doesn't matter if it's out yet, there's fans that want to support the game and show it off, and it's basically free advertising, you know what I mean? So that's just part of the reason that they did it, but we'll get into more of that later. So we can see right off the bat here, it seems like there's a pretty cool variety of items, I will say that. They've got like beanies, backpacks, in addition to the standard like sweatshirts, shirts, mugs, and stuff. There's even baby bodysuits, which is, I don't know if I've ever seen a branded baby bodysuit for a video game before, but that's pretty awesome. Polo shirts, like that's cool. So a decent variety of types of items. I don't yet know what the quality of the items are yet. But we see there's a decent amount of like color options and stuff. Cool too. But it also doesn't take very long to realize that the prices are pretty significantly higher for pretty much everything compared to like other similar merch stores. And that's where it starts to get into a lot of the very quick reactions and that this generated from people, that they're like, why the heck is it so much more expensive? Because it is a lot. Especially the best example is a $30 mug, which seems to already be sold out, and like $57 for a hoodie. Like it's $40 for this jumpsuit. Like that's a little pricey. And I will also say, though, that these clarifications here at the top in the logo and stuff were not there when this was first released, because that helps to at least kind of explain a little bit where they're coming from, because the fact here is that it's basically like micro pledging, if I had to describe it that way, because they need to generate money to make an MMORPG. It's freaking expensive, and they need to be turning enough of a profit to fuel all of the expenses that they have. Now, it's definitely debatable as to, like, you know, maybe if the prices were more accessible, then more people would be buying them, and that gets into a more complicated math problem. But the fact is that this is this is what they have come up with, and yes, the prices may change over time. But the thing to note here is that if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you see where it says open your free shop today. If you click on that, it brings you to a new website that says Spread Shop, also known as Spreadshirt. And this means that the merch store is hosted by basically a third-party company which handles all of the merch, which totally makes sense and is not at all a surprise to me, because where the Pantheon devs are at now, they don't have the time or the resources to handle all of the printing, processing, handling, shipping, customer service, all of that themselves. So basically they have this other company do it, and then the Pantheon devs just take a % cut from that. So basically once they set up this shop, they can just let it be, and then the money comes trickling in. So it works well for the situation that they're in now, but that might not have been obvious to some people at first, because that's part of why the prices get so expensive, is because the vendor has to take a large amount of that to, like I said, handle all the printing, processing, etc. And then the dev just get what's left over, and that still has to be enough for them to generate funds for the game. Because, for example, if you look at some of the pledges on their pledge page, it's pretty understandable, I think, that if you were to add up the total value of each individual reward, it wouldn't quite be as much as the cost of the pledge itself, because it's a business and they need to be making a profit. So I think it's better to think about both pledges and the merch store as more of like, you're just donating money to help support the development of the game, because they've said it's pretty common sense that the more money they have, the more devs and tech and everything that they can have to help speed along the development of the game. So the pledge rewards, and even in this case the merch, is really just kind of like a thank you for pledging. So and the merch store is just on a smaller scale. So if you just want to pledge $35, they'll send you a shirt with the Pantheon logo on it as kind of a thank you. And so it's, like I said, that's what I mean by kind of just micro pledging. So it's obviously for some people and not for other people, and I think that's totally okay. I think that also another important point that was kind of like a bit of concern when this came out was that people thought, oh, does this mean that there's going to be a in-game cash shop and like microtransactions and stuff? The answer is no, and the devs have been very clear about that. This is completely different. This is basically just another form of pledging, and there's still not going to be any cash shop or anything like this. So this is just like your real life cosmetic gear, if you want to put it that way. Now I will say, I think my main point of critique at this point would be that there could be some more creative and unique designs. At this point, it's still pretty much just the Pantheon logo slapped on everything, which is fine, but in the future I'd like to see more unique stuff. Like right now, the only thing that has any sort of graphics on it is this Janice Sova shirt, which does look pretty sweet. And it's also worth mentioning that this is actually a limited edition item. So that the way that they're doing it is where each month there will be a different limited edition item that's for sale, and so at next month they will take away the Janice Silva shirt and replace it with something completely new, which I think is cool for the more hardcore fans that are into collecting stuff like that. You could have a whole closet full of all the limited edition Pantheon shirts, which would be awesome. So I think that's a cool little thing that they're doing. But definitely they said that the merch store will be evolving as time goes on, so definitely curious to see where that goes. But for now, I think it's a pretty decent start. I hope that they do well with it. But anyway, that's all I have on this. I'm gonna get back to moving and working on my more heavily produced videos. I'm really excited to show you the new studio when that's all done. But until then, my name is Bazgrim, and thanks for watching.